My name is Madison, and I am 34 years old. Christmas has always been the most important holiday for my entire family. I spent the whole week preparing gifts, cooking our traditional dishes, pouring my love into every single detail. I thought this year would be different. I believed the cracks in our family would finally heal, but I was wrong. One text message from my mother changed everything. And what I saw through my car window that snowy night shattered everything I believed about my family. Before I share what happened that Christmas Eve, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like the outsider in your own family? If that question hits close to home, drop where you are watching from in the comments below. And if stories about family betrayal and finding your own strength resonate with you, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Trust me, you will want to stay for how this story ends. Growing up in Maple Grove, Ohio, Christmas was sacred in our household. Our family home on Oak Street was nothing fancy, just a two-story colonial with white shutters and a wraparound porch, but every December it transformed into something magical. My father Richard would spend an entire Saturday climbing onto the roof, stringing lights along every edge until our house looked like it belonged in a Hallmark movie. The neighbors would slow their cars just to admire his work. Inside, my mother Donna commanded the kitchen like a general preparing for the most important battle of the year. The turkey was always her masterpiece, prepared with a recipe passed down from my grandmother and her grandmother before that. 4 generations of women had basted that bird with the same mixture of butter herbs and secrets whispered from mother to daughter. The aroma of cinnamon pine needles and fresh-baked sugar cookies would fill every corner of our home. I can still close my eyes and smell it, that particular combination that meant Christmas was here. I remember sitting by the fireplace as a little girl, my hands wrapped around a mug of hot cocoa topped with too many marshmallows. Snow would fall outside the window in fat, lazy flakes, and I felt like the luckiest child in the world. Back then, everything seemed perfect. Back then, I did not know that perfection was just a curtain hiding the complicated truth of family dynamics. My sister Brooke is 4 years older than me. When we were children, I thought she hung the moon. She was everything I wanted to be. Confident, beautiful, the kind of person who walked into a room and immediately became its center. Our parents adored her, or at least that is how it seemed to my younger eyes. Brooke had a way of commanding attention without even trying, while I lingered in the background, the quiet one, the easy one, the daughter who never caused trouble because she was too busy trying to be invisible. I learned early that the easiest way to survive in our family was to keep the peace. When Brooke wanted my toys, I gave them to her. When she claimed the front seat, I climbed into the back without complaint. When our parents asked us to compromise somehow, the compromise always looked like me giving up what I wanted so Brooke could have her way. They called it being the bigger person. They called it maturity. What they never called it was unfair. There is one memory that still stings when I think about it. I was 12 years old and I had spent weeks working on a Christmas painting for my mother. It was a winter scene, our house covered in snow with all 4 of us building a snowman in the front yard. I thought it was beautiful. I could not wait to see my mother's face when she opened it. The night before Christmas, Brooke found the painting in my room. She looked at it for a long moment, then looked at me with something like pity in her eyes. "You are not really going to give that to Mom, are you?" she asked. "Why not?" I replied, already feeling my confidence crumble. "It is just—" She paused, choosing her words like weapons. "It is kind of childish. Do you not think Mom is going to pretend to like it because she has to, but you will be able to tell she is disappointed? I am just trying to save you the embarrassment. I did not give my mother that painting. I hid it in a box in my closet and convinced myself that Brooke was right, that I had saved myself from humiliation." Years later, when I was packing up my childhood room to move into my first apartment, I found that painting again. I looked at it with adult eyes and realized something that made my chest ache. It was good. It was really, really good for a 12-year-old. And I had let my sister convince me it was worthless. That was Brooke. She had a gift for making you doubt yourself while seeming like she was doing you a favor. Despite everything, I built a life I was proud of. I studied architecture at Ohio State University, graduating near the top of my class. I threw myself into my work designing buildings that would outlast me, creating spaces where people would live and love and grow. There was something healing about architecture, about taking empty space and filling it with purpose. I met Derek during a community project in my late 20s. He was a construction engineer, the kind of man who built things with his hands and his heart in equal measure. We were working on a habitat house together, and he made me laugh so hard I nearly fell off a ladder. Our first date was at a tiny Italian restaurant where the candles dripped wax onto the checkered tablecloth and the pasta was made fresh that morning. He told me I had the most genuine smile he had ever seen. No one had ever described me as genuine before. It meant more than he knew. We got married when I was 28, a small ceremony in a garden with only close friends and family. I did not want anything elaborate. I had spent my whole life trying not to take up too much space, and our wedding reflected that. Brooke made several comments about how understated everything was, how she would have done things differently, how Derek was nice enough, but not exactly what she had pictured for me. I smiled and nodded and pretended her words did not leave marks. My career flourished. I became a senior architect at a prestigious firm in Columbus, leading projects that challenged me and fulfilled me in ways I had never expected. Derek and I bought a beautiful home, not flashy, but comfortable, the kind of place where you could imagine growing old together. We talked about children someday, but we were in no rush. Life was good. Meanwhile, Brooke married Greg, a man who changed jobs like most people change socks. He was charming in a surface-level way, the kind of charm that wore thin quickly. They struggled financially, always seeming to be one emergency away from disaster. Over the years, I had quietly helped them more times than I could count. $5,000 here to cover their mortgage when Greg quit another job. $3,000 there for car repairs. I never asked for it back. I never even mentioned it. That is what family did, or so I believed. But the more I gave, the more distant Brooke became. Her comments grew sharper, edged with something that looked a lot like resentment. She stopped calling to chat. When we did talk, she found ways to minimize my accomplishments or highlight her own struggles in a way that felt like an accusation, as if my success was somehow the cause of her difficulties, as if by doing well I was taking something away from her. Still, I believed in family. I believed that blood meant something. I believed that no matter how frayed our bonds became, Christmas would bring us back together. It always had before. This year I was determined to make things right. I planned to bring my mother's favorite side dish, the green bean casserole I had finally perfected after years of trying. I had spent hours selecting gifts for everyone, wrapping them in paper that coordinated with each person's favorite colors. I told myself that this Christmas would be different, that we would sit around the table like we used to, laughing and sharing stories, and all the tension of the past few years would melt away like snow in spring. I did not know then that my family had made other plans that did not include me. The first time I felt something was truly wrong was at Thanksgiving, about a month before that fateful Christmas. Derek and I drove to my parents' house with a homemade pumpkin pie, the crust golden and flaky, the filling spiced perfectly. I was actually excited, feeling hopeful that the holiday season would bring our family closer together. When I walked through my parents' front door, I heard voices coming from the kitchen. My mother and Brooke speaking in low tones that stopped abruptly the moment I appeared in the doorway. They both looked up at me with expressions I could not quite read. Surprise, maybe, or something else. "What were you two talking about?" I asked, keeping my voice light. My mother waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, nothing important, sweetheart. Just going over the menu for Christmas." But there was something in her eyes that did not match her casual tone. Something that made my stomach tighten. During dinner, I could not shake the feeling that I was missing something. There were glances exchanged across the table between Brooke and my mother, the kind of silent communication that happens between people who share a secret. When I started telling everyone about a new project at work, a community center I was designing for underprivileged youth, Brooke interrupted me. "Must be nice to have such a perfect life," she said, her voice dripping with something that was not quite sarcasm, but close to it. Greg laughed a short, ugly sound. "Yeah, must be real tough making all that money designing buildings." I felt my face flush. I was not bragging. I was just sharing my life the way families do. Or the way I thought families did. My father quickly changed the subject to football, and the moment passed. But I could not forget the look on Brooke's face, or the way my mother had not said a word in my defense. A couple of weeks before Christmas, I called my mother to discuss the holiday plans. I wanted to know what I should bring, how I could help, what time we should arrive. Normal questions for a normal family gathering. My mother answered on the fourth ring, sounding distracted. "Oh, Madison, hi. Listen, I am in the middle of something. Can I call you back?" In the background, I heard Brooke's voice, sharp and clear despite the distance. "Is that her?" My mother's voice became muffled, like she was covering the phone. "I will call you back, Madison," she said quickly. And then the line went dead. She never called back. I tried again a few days later, determined not to be paranoid. This time my mother answered and seemed more relaxed, but something was different. "We have decided to do Christmas simple this year," she told me. "Nothing too elaborate. Your father's back has been bothering him. Do you need me to bring anything?" I asked. "I was planning to make Grandma's green bean casserole." There was a pause that lasted just a beat too long. "Oh, you do not need to go to any trouble, honey. Just bring yourself." That should have been reassuring. Instead, it felt like a door closing in my face. The final sign came when I stopped by my parents' house to pick up some old photo albums I wanted for a project. My mother was not expecting me, and when I walked into the living room, she was sitting on the couch with her phone in her hand. The screen lit up with a notification, and I saw the name of a group chat, Family Christmas Planning. I felt like I had been punched in the chest. "What is that?" I asked, my voice smaller than I intended. My mother fumbled with her phone, quickly closing the app. "Oh, that. It is just we were coordinating gift buying. Did not want anyone to double up on presents. It is not a big deal. But if it was for coordinating gifts, why was I not included? Why am I not in that group?" I asked. My mother's eyes darted away from mine. "I must have forgotten to add you. I will do it later, I promise." She never did. That night I sat on my bed and cried. Not dramatic sobs, but the quiet kind of crying that happens when something inside you breaks and you are trying to hold the pieces together. Derek found me there, mascara streaking down my cheeks, and he wrapped his arms around me without asking questions. "Maybe there is a misunderstanding," he said softly, stroking my hair. "Maybe it is not what it looks like." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that my family loved me, that I belonged, that I was not being slowly pushed out of the only world I had ever known. I dried my tears and told myself I was overreacting. Christmas was coming, and Christmas always fixed everything. Christmas was when our family remembered how to love each other. I had no idea how wrong I was. Christmas Eve morning arrived with the kind of excitement I had felt as a child. I woke before dawn, unable to sleep, my mind racing with all the things I needed to do. The sky outside was still dark, but I could see the faint glow of Christmas lights from neighboring houses, and it filled me with warmth. I crept downstairs quietly, not wanting to wake Derek, and started preparing for the day. The kitchen became my sanctuary. I pulled out the ingredients for my grandmother's green bean casserole, the recipe written in her careful handwriting on a card that was now soft and worn from years of use. I chopped and measured and stirred, feeling connected to the women who had come before me, who had made this same dish with the same love. While the casserole baked, I started on a batch of gingerbread cookies. The dough came together perfectly soft and fragrant with molasses and ginger and cinnamon. I rolled it out and cut shapes: Christmas trees, stars, little gingerbread men. As I decorated them with royal icing, I thought about my niece and nephew Brooke's children and how their faces would light up when they saw the cookies. The house smelled incredible by the time Derek woke up. He wandered into the kitchen, still sleepy, and wrapped his arms around me from behind. "You are amazing, you know that," he murmured into my hair. I leaned back into him, feeling grateful. Whatever was going on with my family, at least I had this. At least I had him. At 2:00 in the afternoon, I was in the living room wrapping the last of the presents when my phone buzzed. I picked it up and saw a text from my mother. "Honey, bad news. The weather is getting really bad. They are saying we might get 8 inches of snow tonight. Dad and I think it is safer if everyone just stays home this year. We will do Christmas another day. Stay safe. Love, Mom." I read the message twice, then 3 times. I walked to the window and looked outside. Snow was falling, yes, but gently. The flakes drifted down lazily like they were in no hurry to reach the ground. There was maybe an inch of accumulation on the deck railing. I turned on the television and found the Weather Channel. The forecast called for 3 to 4 inches overnight. Nothing unusual for Ohio in December, certainly nothing that would prevent travel. Something did not add up. I picked up my phone and typed a response. "Are you sure the weather does not look too bad here? I can still make it." The reply came quickly. Too quickly. "No, sweetie. Brooke and her family are staying home too. Dad's back is acting up anyway. We will reschedule. Merry Christmas." I stared at the screen, trying to make sense of what I was reading. My mother's tone was off. It was too cheerful, too final, like she was closing a door and locking it behind her. And something about the message felt rehearsed, like she had written it out ahead of time and was just waiting for the right moment to send it. Derek came into the room and found me standing there, phone in hand, staring at nothing. "What is wrong?" he asked. I showed him the texts. He read them with a frown. "Maybe she is just worried about the weather," he said, but even he did not sound convinced. "Your parents are getting older. It makes sense they would be cautious." I wanted to believe that. I wanted to trust that my mother was telling the truth, that she was just being overprotective, that everything was fine. But the pit in my stomach told me otherwise. I spent the rest of the afternoon in a fog. The casserole sat on the counter perfectly golden. The cookies were arranged on a festive plate covered in plastic wrap. The presents were stacked by the door, ready to be loaded into the car that would not be going anywhere. Derek tried to lift my spirits. He suggested we have our own Christmas Eve celebration, just the two of us. He opened a bottle of wine and put on some holiday music. He even attempted to make his famous grilled cheese sandwiches, which always made me laugh because he acted like they were some gourmet creation. I went through the motions, smiling when I was supposed to smile, but my heart was not in it. As the evening wore on and the sky darkened, I became increasingly restless. I could not sit still. I could not focus on the movie Derek had put on. I kept glancing at my phone, waiting for something, though I did not know what. Finally, around 7:00, I stood up. "I need to go for a drive," I said. Derek looked up from the couch, concern in his eyes. "Right now, it is dark and snowing." "I know. I just need some air. I want to look at the Christmas lights in the neighborhood. I will not be long. Do you want me to come with you?" I shook my head. "I need a little time alone. I will be back soon." He did not argue. That was one of the things I loved about Derek. He trusted me. He gave me space when I needed it. I grabbed my keys and my coat and stepped out into the cold. The snow had picked up a little, but it was still nothing serious. The roads were clear. As I backed out of the driveway, I told myself I was just going to drive around, clear my head, enjoy the holiday decorations. But somehow, without consciously deciding to do so, I found myself heading toward Brooke's house. It was about a 20-minute drive from our place through neighborhoods strung with lights and yards filled with inflatable snowmen and nativity scenes. Normally, I would have enjoyed the view. Tonight, I barely noticed it. My hands gripped the steering wheel and my heart beat faster with every mile. I am just driving by, I told myself. I just want to see if the lights are on. If Brooke and her family are home like Mom said, then everything is fine. I can go home and stop being paranoid. But deep down I knew. I knew what I was going to find. I had known since the moment I read my mother's text. I turned onto Brooke Street and my breath caught in my throat. The house was lit up like a beacon. Every window glowed with warmth. The Christmas tree in the front window sparkled with multicolored lights, and in the driveway, parked in a neat row, were cars. My parents' blue SUV, my cousin Tyler's red truck, my Aunt Patricia's silver sedan, my Uncle Robert's white minivan. Brooke's car was visible in the open garage. Everyone was there. Everyone except me. I pulled over to the side of the road into the shadow of a large oak tree where no one would see me. Through the windows of the house, I could see figures moving around, silhouettes against the bright interior. I could make out the shape of the dining table loaded with food. I could see people laughing, talking, celebrating. Christmas dinner had not been canceled. It had just been canceled for me. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I could not breathe. My chest felt like it was being crushed. I doubled over in my seat, gasping for air, and then the tears came. Not quiet tears this time, but great wrenching sobs that shook my whole body. I do not know how long I sat there crying. It could have been 5 minutes or 50. Time lost all meaning. All I could feel was the betrayal, sharp and cold, cutting through everything I thought I knew about my family. My own mother had looked me in the eyes, or at least texted me and lied. My sister had orchestrated my exclusion. And everyone else, my father, my aunt, my uncle, my cousin, they had all gone along with it. They had all chosen to spend Christmas without me, and not one of them had the decency to tell me the truth. When the tears finally slowed, I pulled out my phone and called Derek. My voice was barely recognizable when he answered. "Babe, what is wrong?" Through hitching breaths, I told him what I had found. The cars, the lights, the dinner that was happening right now at this very moment without me. He was silent for a long moment. "I am coming to get you," he said finally. "No." I shook my head even though he could not see me. "No, I need to handle this. What are you going to do?" I looked at the house, at the warm glow of the windows, at the family that had decided I did not belong. "I am going to go in there," I said. "I am going to look them in the eyes and ask them why." Derek's voice was gentle but firm. "Are you sure that is what you want?" I admitted. "But it is what I need." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I love you, and I believe in you. Whatever happens, I am here." I thanked him and ended the call. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand and checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes were red, my mascara was smudged, but I did not care. I was done trying to look perfect for people who did not value me. I thought about my options. I could drive away right now, pretend I had never seen this, and continue living in a family that clearly did not want me. Or I could walk into that house and demand the truth, even if it destroyed everything. I thought about my grandmother, about the things she used to tell me when I was young. The truth might hurt, she would say, but a lie will hurt longer. I took a deep breath. I opened the car door. The cold hit my face like a slap, but it was bracing, waking me up from the fog of grief. I walked toward the house, my boots crunching in the snow. With every step, I felt something changing inside me. The scared little girl who always gave up her toys, who hid her paintings, who made herself small so others could be big, she was still there. But something else was rising up alongside her, something stronger. I reached the front door. Through the frosted glass, I could see the warm shapes of my family inside. I could hear muffled laughter, the clink of glasses. I raised my hand and pressed the doorbell. The door swung open and Brooke stood there with a glass of wine in her hand and a smile on her face that died the instant she saw me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I watched the color drain from her face, watched her grip tighten on the wine glass, watched her eyes dart behind her as if calculating how to contain the situation. "Madison?" she breathed. "What are you doing here?" I kept my voice steady, even though my heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. "Merry Christmas, Brooke. I see the weather cleared up enough for everyone to make it." She opened her mouth closed. It opened it again. No words came out. Behind her, I heard my mother's voice from the dining room. "Brooke, honey," who is at the door. I did not wait for Brooke to answer. I stepped past her, brushing by her shoulder, and walked into my parents' house. The scene that greeted me was exactly what I had imagined, and somehow worse. The dining table was set beautifully with my mother's good china and the crystal glasses that only came out for special occasions. The turkey sat in the center, golden and glistening, surrounded by all the traditional dishes. Candles flickered, Christmas music played softly in the background. And there was my family, all of them, seated around the table like it was any other Christmas, like nothing was wrong, like I did not exist. When they saw me, the room went silent. My mother set down her wine glass with a shaky hand. My father looked at me, then at my mother, confusion, and something like shame crossing his face. My Aunt Patricia stood halfway as if she was going to say something, then sat back down. My Uncle Robert suddenly became very interested in the napkin on his lap. My cousin Tyler, who I had been close to growing up, looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. And Greg Brooks' husband just kept eating fork, moving from plate to mouth like I was not even there. "Madison," my mother finally said, her voice thin and high. "Sweetheart, what are you doing here? I told you the weather was too bad to drive." I looked at her. This woman who had raised me, who had taught me to always tell the truth, who had held me when I was sick and cheered for me at every school play. This woman who had looked at her phone and typed out a lie knowing exactly what she was doing. "The roads are clear, Mom," I said, and apparently they were clear enough for everyone else, too. The silence that followed was suffocating. I watched my mother's face crumble, watched tears spring to her eyes. Part of me wanted to go to her to comfort her because that was what I had always done. Made things easier, smoothed things over, pretended everything was okay so no one else had to be uncomfortable. Not tonight. I turned to my sister, who had followed me into the dining room and was now standing with her arms crossed, her expression shifting from shock to defiance. "I want to know why I said simply." Brooke let out a harsh laugh. "Why what?" "Why we wanted one holiday without you making everything about yourself. Making everything about myself." I stared at her. When have I ever made anything about myself? "Oh, please, Madison. Every family dinner is the same thing. Oh, look at my fancy job. Oh, look at my perfect husband. Oh, look at my beautiful house." It is exhausting. I felt like I was in an alternate reality. I never bragged about anything. If anything, I downplayed my accomplishments because I knew they made Brooke uncomfortable. "I share my life," I said slowly, "the same way you share yours. That is what families do." "See, there you go again." Brooke rolled her eyes. "Acting like you are so innocent, like you have no idea why people get tired of you." My mother stood up from the table, her hands pressed together like she was praying. "Girls, please. It is Christmas. Can we not just calm down and talk about this like adults?" I turned to her. "You lied to me, Mom. You looked at your phone and typed a lie. You told me everyone was staying home because of the weather. And then you all came here to Brooke's house and had Christmas without me. I think I deserve to know why." My mother's tears were flowing freely now. "You do not understand, Madison. It is complicated. Brooke said she said that you had been saying things about her. Terrible things. That you thought she was a failure, that you looked down on her and Greg. She said you told me those things, but I do not remember. And then she showed me texts." "What texts?" I asked, my blood running cold. "Texts where you called her a loser, where you said Greg was worthless, where you said you wish she was not your sister." I had never sent any texts like that. I had never even thought those things. Mom, I said, my voice shaking now, but not with sadness. With anger. I never sent any texts like that. Never. I have never said those things about Brooke to you or to anyone. I looked at my sister, and suddenly so many things made sense. The distance, the hostility, the way my mother had been pulling away. Brooke had been poisoning my mother against me, making up lies, maybe even faking texts, and my mother had believed her. Brooke, I said quietly, what did you do? She did not answer, but I saw something flicker in her eyes. Fear, guilt. The look of someone who had been caught. My father stood up. His face was pale, and he looked older than I had ever seen him. Brooke, he said, his voice heavy, is this true? Did you make up those messages, Dad? I can explain. Brooke started. Answer the question. The room held its breath. Even Greg had stopped eating. Brooke's composure cracked. You do not understand what it is like, she burst out. Being compared to her my whole life. Madison, the perfect one. Madison, the successful one. Madison, who never makes mistakes. Do you have any idea how hard it is to be the older sister who cannot seem to get anything right while your baby sister is out there winning at life? So you lied. My father's voice was like ice. You made up stories and turned your mother against your own sister. I just wanted one Christmas where I did not have to feel like a failure. I stood there listening to my sister's confession, and I waited for satisfaction, for vindication, for some kind of triumph. It did not come. All I felt was sad. Sad for the sister who was so consumed by jealousy that she had destroyed our relationship. Sad for my mother who had been manipulated into betraying her own daughter. Sad for the family we used to be and would never be again. I thought about all the times I had helped Brooke, the money I had given her, the emergencies I had bailed her out of, the comments I had ignored, the slights I had forgiven, the pain I had swallowed because I did not want to cause conflict. And this was how she repaid me. I looked around the room at my family, at my mother sobbing quietly, at my father looking like the ground had opened up beneath him, at my aunt and uncle shifting uncomfortably, at Tyler who could not meet my eyes. I came here tonight to understand why I said my voice calm now, almost gentle, and now I understand, but I want you all to know something. I paused, making sure I had their attention. I never said those things about Brooke. I never felt those things. All I ever wanted was for our family to be close. I helped Brooke every time she needed it. I flew home to take care of Dad after his surgery. I showed up for every birthday, every holiday, every crisis. And not once did I ever ask for anything in return. The tears were streaming down my mother's face. I am not going to stand here and list every sacrifice I made for this family, I continued. That is not who I am. But I want you to sit with this. You chose to believe lies over your own daughter, your own sister, without even asking me if they were true. I turned toward the door. Merry Christmas, I said. I hope it was worth it. Madison, wait. My father's voice stopped me. I did not know. I swear to you, I thought you really could not make it because of the weather. Donna told me that. I would never have agreed to this if I had known. I looked at him, at this man who had lifted me onto his shoulders at parades and taught me to ride a bike and walked me down the aisle at my wedding. I believed him. I could see in his eyes that he was telling the truth. I know, Dad, I said softly, and I love you, but I need time. I walked out of that house and into the cold night air. The snow was still falling, gentle and silent, covering everything in white. I could hear commotion behind me, raised voices, the sound of my mother crying, but I did not look back. I got in my car and drove away. The drive home felt different from the drive there. On the way to Brooke's house, I had been filled with dread and denial, hoping against hope that I was wrong. Now I felt something entirely new. Not peace exactly, but clarity. The kind of clarity that comes when you finally see something you have been trying not to see for years. Derek was waiting for me at the door when I pulled into the driveway. He did not say anything. He just opened his arms and I walked into them, and for a long moment we stood there in the entryway of our home while the snow fell outside. When I finally pulled back, he led me into the living room and I gasped. While I was gone, he had transformed our space. The dining table, which we rarely used, was now set for two. Candles flickered in the center, casting warm shadows on the walls. 2 plates held servings of pasta, his specialty, along with a basket of garlic bread and a bottle of the good wine we had been saving for a special occasion. "What is this?" I asked, my voice cracking. "This is our Christmas," he said simply. "Just us, the only family that matters." We sat down and ate together. The pasta was perfect, the wine was perfect, and somewhere between the first bite and the last I realized that I was smiling. Not the fake smile I had worn for years at family gatherings, the one that hurt my cheeks and never reached my eyes. A real smile. The kind that comes from being truly seen. After dinner, we moved to the couch and watched the snow fall through the window. Derek held my hand, tracing patterns on my palm with his thumb. "I do not know what happens next," I admitted. "You do not have to know," he said. "We will figure it out together." That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept without dreaming of family dinners and secret group chats, and the look in my mother's eyes when she typed that lie. I slept curled against Derek, warm and safe, and when I woke up on Christmas morning, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Hope. The days after Christmas were complicated. My father called on Boxing Day, his voice heavy with emotion. He told me he had confronted my mother and Brooke after I left. He told me that Brooke had finally admitted to creating fake screenshots to manipulating my mother's fears and insecurities about losing touch with her daughters. He told me he was ashamed that he had not seen it sooner. "I am so sorry, Madison," he said. "I should have protected you. I should have asked more questions. I let your mother make decisions about the holiday without checking with anyone else, and I let Brooke's version of events become the truth. That is on me." "It is not just on you, Dad," I said, "but I appreciate you saying that." My mother sent a text later that day. It was long and rambling, full of apologies and explanations and promises to do better. She admitted she had been wrong to believe Brooke without verifying. She said she had been so afraid of losing one daughter that she had lost the other instead. I read the message several times. Then I put my phone down and went for a walk. I was not ready to respond. Not yet. Forgiveness is not a switch you can flip. It is a journey, and I was only at the beginning of mine. My Aunt Patricia called a few days later. Unlike my mother, she did not make excuses. "I knew something was wrong," she said. "I should have spoken up. I should have asked why you were not there. Instead, I sat at that table and said nothing, and I will regret that for a long time." Her honesty meant more to me than 100 apologies. Tyler sent a text that simply said, "I am sorry, Maddie. I miss my cousin. I missed him too." But I was not sure if things could ever go back to the way they were. As for Brooke, she never reached out. Not a call, not a text, not even a half-hearted apology through someone else. Part of me was not surprised. Brooke had never been good at admitting she was wrong. She would probably find a way to twist this story until she became the victim. But that was her problem now, not mine. In the weeks that followed, I started to rebuild my life. Not the life I had been living, the one where I bent over backward to please people who did not appreciate me. A different life. A better one. I started seeing a therapist, something I had resisted for years because I did not want to admit I needed help. But there was freedom in sitting in that quiet office and saying the things I had been holding inside. My therapist helped me understand that setting boundaries was not selfishness, it was survival. I reconnected with old friends who had drifted away, not because of any falling out, but because I had been so focused on my family that I forgot to nurture other relationships. I called my college roommate Lisa and we talked for 3 hours, like no time had passed at all. I started having coffee with Marcus and Tanya, our neighbors, who turned out to be funny and kind and nothing like I expected. Slowly, I built a new support system. People who chose to be in my life. People who showed up. I also started writing. Not a journal exactly. More like letters to myself. Letters to the little girl who hid her painting because her sister said it was not good enough. Letters to the teenager who always sat in the back seat. Letters to the woman who gave and gave and gave until there was nothing left. "It is okay," I wrote. "You did not do anything wrong. And it is not too late to start putting yourself first." A year passed, seasons changed. The world kept spinning. My relationship with my father grew stronger. We started meeting for lunch every other week, just the two of us at a little diner near his office. He told me stories I had never heard before about his own complicated relationship with his parents, about the pressures he had faced, trying to keep everyone happy. He admitted that he had always known there was tension between Brooke and me, but he had convinced himself that if he ignored it, it would go away. "I made mistakes too," he said one afternoon over coffee. I thought staying neutral was the same as being fair, but neutrality in the face of injustice is not fair. It is cowardice. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "We are learning," I said, "both of us." My mother was a more complicated story. We were talking again, but it was not the same. There was a distance between us that had not been there before, a caution in my voice when I spoke to her, a guardedness in my heart. She was trying. I could see that. But trust once broken takes time to repair. One day she asked if she could take me to lunch. Just the two of us. We went to the restaurant where we used to go when I was a child, the one with the checkered tablecloths and the bread basket that was always warm. My mother sat across from me, looking older than I remembered, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea she was not drinking. "I know I can never undo what happened," she said quietly. "I know that. But I want you to know that I am working on myself. I am trying to understand why I was so easily manipulated, why I did not trust my own instincts about you. And I am sorry. More sorry than I can ever say." I looked at her for a long moment. "I believe you," I said finally, "and I am willing to work on this. But it is going to take time, Mom, and things may never be exactly like they were before." She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I know. I will take whatever you are willing to give." It was not the reunion I had dreamed of as a child, but it was real, and sometimes real is better than perfect. As for Brooke, we maintained what I could only call civil distance. We saw each other at family events, the few I chose to attend. We exchanged polite greetings. We did not pretend to be close. I did not hate her. Hating someone takes too much energy, and I had better things to do with my life. But I also did not trust her. And I had learned that you do not have to trust someone to coexist with them. The biggest change, though, was inside me. I learned to take up space, to speak my mind without apologizing, to set boundaries and not feel guilty about enforcing them. I learned that my worth was not determined by how much I gave to others, but by how I treated myself. I learned that family is not just the people you are born to. It is the people who show up, the people who stay, the people who choose you again and again, even when it is hard. Derek and I hosted our own Christmas the following year. We invited 12 people, friends, neighbors, the new family we had built from scratch. The table was crowded and loud and messy, and when I looked around at all those faces, I felt something I had been chasing my whole life. Belonging. Not the conditional belonging of my childhood, where I had to earn my place through good behavior and sacrifice. Real belonging. The kind that comes from being seen and accepted exactly as you are. After everyone left and Derek and I were cleaning up the dishes, I looked out the window at the snow falling softly on our backyard. It was almost midnight. The house was quiet except for the carols still playing softly in the background. "You okay?" Derek asked, coming up behind me. I smiled. "Yeah," I said. "I really am." And I meant it. So here is what I want to leave you with. If you are watching this and you feel like the outsider in your own family, if you have ever been excluded or lied to or made to feel like you do not belong, I want you to know something. It is not your fault, and you are not alone. The truth might hurt. It might shatter everything you thought you knew. But on the other side of that pain is freedom. The freedom to build a life that actually fits you. The freedom to surround yourself with people who lift you up instead of tearing you down. The freedom to finally be yourself. If your own blood abandoned you, would you have the courage to build a new family from the people who chose you? Because sometimes the family you create is stronger than the one you were born into. I would love to know your thoughts. Have you ever experienced something like this with your own family? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments below. And if this video touched your heart, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and share it with someone who might need to hear this message today. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for listening. And wherever you are in the world, whatever kind of family you have chosen or given, I hope you find the belonging you deserve. Merry Christmas, and may your table always be full of people who love you for exactly who you are.